Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, my sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. Update: my sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. Entitled X is a grief thief. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. TLDR, this is not fun, it's costing me money, it's wasting my time. And she thinks $55 is good for 2 months of babysitting. Too long, but you'll read anyway? This makes me hurt a little because up to this point my sister was the only one I could mildly get along with within my family. But I guess she is my mother's daughter, so the entitlement shouldn't have been a surprise. My sister and brother-in-law are both essential, cop and doctor. So they've needed someone to watch their kids now that school is cancelled and a lot of daycare services aren't around, and even then the youngest one had been kicked out of 2 of them and finding a new one is difficult due to that. So I've been watching these kids 4 to 6 times a week depending on their schedule, anywhere between 7 to 12 hours a day. I was told to wait until they got paid, then told to wait for the stimulus check to come in and they'd pay me for it. At that point, and I do have the text, it was going to be $85 a week, regardless of that 4 to 6 times a week. Well, they got the stimulus check in. My sister gives me $55 and tells me that this was for the babysitting. I told her WTF, this wasn't what we agreed on. I was told that I should be grateful because she has been feeding me. No, she hasn't. I bought my own food and tended to have to buy the food that these kids were eating for lunch. I was told it was just like hanging out having fun playing video games with my nephews. No, it was not, and she knows her kids better to know they're feckin' monsters. They both are destructive. It's a hassle since I have to chase one of them around all the time to prevent them from climbing shelves or from getting out the front door because these kids were never taught to mind, and when I refused to bring my gaming laptop for the older one to play anymore, I told him specifically if he wanted to play on it, he'd only touch the wireless mouse and keyboard and play it at the desk, but not to touch the laptop. So what does he do after getting bored with one game he begged me to let him play? Pick up the laptop and run with it and drop it. I screamed at him, not my best moment, and he had the attitude of a teenage valley girl of whatever. Accidents happen, that's why they're accidents. If it breaks, you can just buy a new 1 inch, of which I told him he would be the one to replace the $1,600 computer. But since that day he's been a whining bag of shit about me not bringing it over for him to play with. I have to deal with these kids assaulting me all the time and not being able to do a thing about it. These kids are fucking monsters, and the only reason I agreed to do this was because she was my sister and she needed the help, but I was supposed to be compensated for my time away from my own work. I work commission-based jobs at home, but I can't work on it around them as there's no pause for me to do it, lest the younger one would probably run away and get hit by a truck. I know it'll probably be crappy of me to do if I just don't show up for the next few days until they fix paying me what they at the very least owed me, but on the other hand, I really just don't want to be around those kids. They need to be heavily medicated and are the poster children for corporal punishment being a necessity. Edit: the kids are 11 and 8. The laptop is fine. My response was due to his attitude of I can just replace it when I told him no because I don't want it broken. Updated: tell him you can't babysit anymore. They need to figure something out for themselves. You tried, they stiffed you. Edit: thank you for my award, kind internet person, smiley face. Edit the second: thank you for my gold, another kind internet person, smiley face. Nope. Tell them you won't babysit again until they pay what they already owe you. What can they do? Once they pay you, then you tell them that you're not going to babysit anymore and it is entirely their fault. Their kids are out of control and you don't feel like you should have to beg to be paid what they agreed. You might be willing to do it for a considerable increase in payment in advance. Let them know that if you show up and they don't have cash, you're leaving. If they pay you for 8 hours, you're leaving after 8 hours whether they're home or not. What you do is to take a screenshot of the agreement that states that you get $85 a week, tell your sister she better pay you or she will have to find another sitter. In my country, 1 hour of sitting costs about $10, in our currency of course, at least, so should she refuse to pay you that you come again, she might just as well pay a sitter for the next month or so, which will cost her about $350, $7,105 a week. Also, take care of yourself and stay safe. I feel like this doesn't work. Also, kids tend to act more like their parents, so I bet her sister also has the valley teenager attitude. If she thinks you $55 in enough for 2 months even though we agreed on $85 per week, then I doubt that it would be easy to punch some sense into her. Deleted. It's not a gaming laptop. It's an art laptop that has the specs to run as a gaming laptop. That's why it is so expensive. It's also why I used a wireless keyboard and mouse in the hopes he wouldn't touch the laptop itself. I find it difficult to understand why people who have essential jobs are getting so entitled. Many people are stuck home and literally are not allowed to work, yet these people are able to continue to work and get overtime. Of course they are putting themselves at risk, but they technically could stay home with no pay if they were overly concerned, quit. They are the few who can still afford childcare during this time, and they should be grateful that they have a family member willing to risk getting sick by being exposed to their kids after they spend the evening with mom and dad. Helping your sister was a very nice thing to do, especially nowadays. But she agreed to pay you a certain amount of money. She didn't. Don't go there anymore. I know it's not that easy because she is family. But you have the right to change your mind. She also did, right? Ding ding ding. She shortchanged what she was going to pay. You walk away with it blowing up behind you. Let them see if they can find anyone to babysit for $85 a day. Spoiler, they can't. You don't owe them low-budget childcare. They, however, owe you money and possibly computer repairs. Walk away. First of all, $85 for a week of babysitting 2 kids is ridiculous. I pay that per day at my daycare. There are cheaper daycares, but I would be asking $4.50/day if I were you. I am in Canada, so not sure what prices where you are, but look into it. How can a doctor and a cop be so low on money? Stop babysitting for them, and once they see what others are asking, they will be much more grateful and accommodating to what you are asking for. Deleted. If they ask the next time, tell them no. It's more fun to be at home gaming without those kids. But it shouldn't be a big deal for her to find a new sitter since it's essentially just sitting with the kids and playing games. $55 isn't enough for 2 days, let alone 2 months. Tell your sister that she can find a professional that will pay for the privilege of watching her crotch goblins. Steps, AMO. You still owe me. 85 times 8 is equal to 680 minus 55, 625. Until you pay that, don't expect any help from me. Ever. I refuse to deal with you until you prove yourself trustworthy. I expect advance payment for the future. Only after she paid you the previously owed amount. Ask her or Bill why the amount changed, despite the promise. After they've paid you, accept or decline future business. You forgot a step, where OP charges $100 per 8-hour day since the kids are outright hellions. Tell them they have 2 options. Option 1 is finding new childcare for them. Option 2 is they pay you in full the amount they owe you, and that going forward they have to pay you the $85 a week up front. None of this waiting until they get paid. I understand that they are essential employees and that during this time it can be difficult to find childcare, but that doesn't mean they can use you for free babysitting. No is a complete sentence. It sounds harsh, OP, but if you continue to babysit, you are teaching them how to treat you. Put your foot down. Oh, they'll be pissed, guaranteed. They're taking advantage of you, and most people wouldn't allow what you are allowing. You are being way too kind. Simply text them that they did not hold up to their end of the agreement, send them a snapshot of the text showing the price they said they'd pay, and wish them the best in finding a sitter. Then move along with your day. No malice, no drama. You didn't cause the headache for them, they did. Update: my sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. Original post. So, I waited some time so I wouldn't have to do multiple updates after a few people asked for them. Not sure if this is typically a subreddit that allows updates, but here it goes. To clear the air here, I am a dude. I know, how feminizing for a man to babysit. I had thought to correct this in the other post, but I also was sort of amused at how many people assumed I was a woman. I spoke first to Bill, who had no idea that she wasn't paying me, so he was the one to pay me back for the weeks I had already done. He wasn't very happy with my sister. I didn't watch them for this last week. I did talk to my sister first off about how disrespectful that was to make a deal and renege on that deal, especially considering how ill-behaved her kids are. My sister told me she didn't think it was a big deal because I was getting unemployment, and she assumed that because some people were getting unemployment and an additional plus $600 a week due to COVID, that doesn't make any sense to pay extra to people on unemployment and not those working, so I was making bank either way. She assumed wrong. I was not getting $600 extra a week. I wasn't on unemployment due to COVID, but it was part of what happened with my former employer before I went to work for myself that they're paying my unemployment for their many labor law violations. My unemployment through them is almost up anyways. Either way, it was odd for her to assume I was making $900 a week off unemployment without asking me if I was. She and her Bill had to switch around their shifts to watch their kids this week since I wouldn't show up. Bill said he'd pay me directly if she wasn't going to, and that's when it became a three-way conversation. I let them know that their kids' behavior is really unacceptable, even for behaviorally challenged kids, which if they were they'd be forced to have a child care provider licensed for dealing with it. That's not the case with their kids, they just let them get away with too much. Ironically, last week I saw a hot bench episode with a mother who had a child who apparently told the babysitter to put him in his room, put up the gate if she were to not be in the room with him for any reason so he couldn't get out. And this kid was 10, and it got me thinking of my nephews. So, I told them they need to install more security measures against the kids. A high-raise lock that the monkey can't reach so he can't be running out the door, removing anything that can be used as a weapon. Possibly a gate to lock one up in a room if they're misbehaving where there's nothing in there for them to break. I still will not hit a kid, but I don't mind shoving them into a room and locking it to see if they calm down. I am not watching them this week either. But, I told them I might reconsider if something can be done to make watching them not like being a security guard at a prison. At least there you can beat up the inmates. My sister didn't like my suggesting that they need to change their parenting, but my Bill actually agreed. They had their argument and he said this is why they can't get babysitters or daycare for them anymore. They're out of control, definitely knew that, and that they just keep coddling them through it, definitely knew my sister was doing that. So, there's a possibility I might watch them next week, if they have some sort of new way to mitigate their behaviors that could actually work. But that's not a yes yet. They would need these ways to start disciplining their kids either way, or they'll just be releasing awful teens onto the world. Good for you that you got your money and that Bill actually listens and tries to get his kids under control. Good luck with them. I'm guessing Bill is the cop. He's likely seen his share of coddled/entitled brats through his job. He or whichever one is the cop has likely seen their fair share of the long-term effects of not disciplining children. Brah, how my 23-year-old sister thinks I should do it for free. I'm 15 but I work at Publix and can barely take time off of the weekends, so how does she expect me to take time off, drive 3 hours and babysit when I'm essential personnel during this time, plus I am in Civil Air Patrol, so if anyone goes missing I have to look for them. I got into a fight with her and her husband yesterday. I will spill the beans if you guys want. Yes, spill the beans. Sounds like a good story. Sorry, they are trying to take advantage of you. No is always a complete sentence and then disengage. They will learn after a few times of this answer. Don't even consider watching them next week. Even if Super Nanny comes in and tells them everything they need to do to fix their parenting, they will take months to actually have the discipline to follow through, and for the kids to take it seriously and straighten up. Then even if that works, with you as a new person, they will try to push boundaries. I believe you'll enforce them better than your sister, but it still won't be fun. Don't even attempt to watch those kids for 2 to 3 months. Your sister honestly sounds like she should not have been a mom ever. Your BIL isn't doing too hot either, but at least he can see that they're doing things wrong and is open to changing that. She's ruining her kids' futures by making them insufferable. Glad to know you got your pay though. I've been hoping you'd update. Your sister sounds like a real piece of work, lying to you and her husband and refusing to raise her kids right. I'm glad you stood your ground, and I hope you will be the force that causes them to teach their kids to be productive citizens rather than criminals. I hope too that you'll stand firm if sis tries to dump them back on you without making changes in the way the kids are parented first. Entitled X is a grief thief. My late husband's ex is a crazy B*TCH. This isn't based on anything he said. He wasn't one to badmouth people in general. At the beginning of the relationship, all he said was, "That was a very bad time in my life and I'd like to leave it in the past. I'd erase it if I could. A do-over where we never met would be better." As we got more serious, I learned more. She had cheated, tried to convince him to start a family with her, possibly because she was pregnant by one of her affair partners, and then maxed out all of their credit cards before leaving the country. He was stuck paying it off so it didn't affect his credit. She returned about a year before we started dating and tried to reconnect through mutuals. He had to change his number twice. The second time, he also cut out a considerable number of friends who had given his first new number to her. And then she somehow got my number. She sounded friendly enough, but 1, how did she get my number and why was she calling me? 2, I have savvy manipulative family members and she wasn't even amateur hour compared to them. She tried to butter me up by saying we have so much in common because of our great taste in men, but there was something that I should know about him before things got too serious. She invoked the sisterhood, and how she couldn't, in good conscience, stand by and say nothing when a fellow woman was about to make a big mistake. I let her talk because I wanted to know what kind of BS she would spew. After I hung up, both my and my husband's social circle tightened a little more. Her social circle decreased, too. Specifically, she cut out a lot of people for allowing him to become engaged to me. How could they betray her and let that happen, when she was his one and only soulmate? They were meant to be together, and would have been, if I didn't get in the way. She never really gave up, but we ignored her and blocked as needed. Fast forward. After my husband passed away, a friend called and nervously asked how I was feeling before leading up to whether I had been on Facebook that day. The ex had posted a long, tearful post on his memorial page about her loss, how heartbreaking it was to know that she would never see her soulmate, the great love of her life, ever again. She included pictures of their engagement and wedding. She rambled about her utter emotional devastation and how no one could understand her great loss. I deleted the post and blocked her from the group. And my social circle once more decreased in size as I cut out the people who liked her post or offered support in the comments. OMG, this reminds me of something that happened to a friend of mine. Her fiancé's stepmother, aka stepmonster, and father-in-law had been divorced more than 20 years. Probably 30 years at most. She changed her last name back to her maiden name. In that span of time, her father-in-law moved on with different women and then more or less fell hard for a woman we'll call Monica. They lived together for a long time, practically a common-law marriage. He really did love her, and it was evident to everyone who saw them together. Well, the father-in-law died in a motorcycle accident. The day after, stepmonster swings by my friend's house, was crying and acting devastated. Changed her social media accounts from her maiden name back to her former partner's name. Then declared to everyone that her ex was her soulmate. But that's not all. I wasn't there for the funeral, but it was legendary. Apparently, my friend, who orchestrated the funeral, paid everything out of pocket because no one had the money and he would have wanted this. So she paid for it all. Prior to the service, my friend found an email that her father-in-law wrote stating that Monica was the love of his love. His soulmate. His everything and his world. So my friend read that letter aloud. Stepmonster lost her shit. Stood up noisily but didn't say anything, but all eyes were on her as she and her sister walked out. Then everyone could hear her screaming in the parking lot about how SHE was his soulmate. Not Monica. The best part was she forgot her granddaughter. Abandoned her at the funeral home while she got in her car and tore out of the parking lot. Good for you and screw her. So sorry for your loss, totally using grief thief from now on though. Too bad you didn't add a shot of their divorce decree to make the photo collage complete. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.